Co-President Nigel Farage, Freedom and Democracy.
Thank you. Mr Barroso, you told us this morning that the European Union is an inspiration, and whilst you admitted to there being one or two little economic problems, you made it perfectly clear that jobs and growth were to follow, that everything's going well. In fact, you painted a vision that a new period of European renewal is upon us. Post 1945, there were some very sensible ideas put together, namely the Council of Europe. Let's have a Europe where we sit down together, where we have a free trade agreement, where we agree minimum standards on work, on the environment. We can do all of these things without a European Commission, without a European Parliament and without a European Court of Justice. We've done it in security terms with NATO. Yes, it'll mean you'll lose your job, Mr Barroso, but apart from that, why can't we do things as mature democracies? Yes, I want you sacked, Mr Schulz, as well. I want you all fired. We can do those things, and that is a positive way forward. By taking away from people their ability to govern themselves and transferring that power to the European Commission, we're headed for a Europe of rebellion and violence. And we have a new President of Europe, Herman van Rumpoy. I can't see him stopping the traffic in Beijing or Washington. I doubt anybody in Brussels would even recognise who he is. And yet, he's going to be paid a salary bigger than Obama's, which tells you all you need to know about this European political class and how they look after themselves. Just look at the confusion. We've got you as the President of the European Commission, we've got a President of the European Parliament, we've got my old friend Herman van Rompuy, who is the permanent President of the European Council. We've got presidents all round this room. Goodness me, even I'm a president. I'm not sure what the collective noun for presidents is. Perhaps an incompetence, I don't know. But certainly when you take away democratic accountability, it's clear nobody really is in charge. And it's developing as a union of intolerance. Anybody that stands up here and dares to give a political view that is different to the received wisdom is written off as mad, insane, violent, fascist. We've heard it for years from these people. And the intolerance is so deep. What is the most commonly used word in association with the euro? No, it's not failure, though it could be. No, it's stability, isn't it? A decade ago, everybody said, once we've got the euro currency, it will bring us stability. Well, I would suggest a decade on, what it has brought is chaos, discord and misery for millions. You want to abolish the nation states, in your case, Mr Schulz, perhaps because you're ashamed of your past, and you now want this flag, and a new anthem to replace nation states, and you don't care how you get there. It wants a Europe of trade, it wants a Europe of cooperation, it wants a Europe where we can do student exchanges, where we can work in each other's capital cities. It wants those things, but it does not want this European Union model. Frankly, you are all now yesterday's men. We've witnessed the beginning of a dishonest and downright dangerous German presidency. To revive the EU constitution, but to do it in such a way that you want to avoid referendums in the key member states, is not just an insult to the French and the Dutch, but it's actually a classic example of the new phenomenon that I see all around me this morning, EU nationalism, where you never ever take no for an answer. But perhaps there's one small ray of hope from your speech this morning, Mrs Merkel, because you talked about freedom at great length, and I agree with you, it is important. And so I ask you, will you please allow the peoples of Europe to have the freedom to determine their own futures in free and fair referendums, and not to have this constitution foisted upon them? If you fail to do this, if you go on ignoring the peoples of Europe, you will breed and create the very intolerance, extremism and racism that you say yourself you wish to stop. For goodness sake, let the people speak. Mr Juncker, as President of the Eurogroup, your detachment from reality is almost unbelievable. I mean, you're behaving like a political ostrich, pretending none of it's happening. I think it's about time that you and others in this room woke up to the fact that we are inflicting misery on millions of people through unemployment, through poverty, through a loss of democracy. You just told us a few moments ago that Greece fundamentally has no problems.
Mr. President, I didn't say that Greece has no problems. I didn't say that. I did say that although Greece is a member of the euro area, Greece is in deep problems. I don't think that it would be wise and useful for the President of the euro area to take part in all kinds of speculations of the nature of those you were mentioning in the third part of your question. Your second question was linked to my credibility as far as I understood. I prefer mine to yours.
Very good, Mr. Juncker. Very good. Interesting. Well, on this very point of credibility, you yourself said back in April that when things become serious, you have to lie. That is what you said back in April, and it seems to me that things are pretty serious and that frankly everything you say is a lie. The euro cannot and should not be held together under its current construction, and it's about time you admitted, you and all of you in this room, you've got this wrong, and countries like Greece need to be set free. Because we experienced not long ago a serious threat to our sovereignty. So what are you saying? That this isn't quite as bad as the USSR? Is that really good enough for your people? And today you describe Greece's problems as trivial. I'm sorry, there are hundreds of thousands of people out there on the streets of Greece fighting to get their democracy back. And it beggars belief that you and our President, Mr. Buzek, can talk about the solidarity movement, can talk about Poland getting its democracy back 20 years ago, and yet here you are, surrendering the democracy and sovereignty of Poland to a failed European Union. Yes, sir, we all want a shared European cooperation for the future, but this most definitely is not the model. I may represent the smallest group in this Parliament, Mr. Schulz, but I can tell you that it's a group whose ideas and whose views are now being echoed by a growing number of citizens right across this continent. I'm sure you'd agree, the opinion polls show it's kind of 50-50 whether people think this EU is a good thing or a bad thing. What we represent, sir, is not anti-Europeanism. That is not what it's about. We believe in nation-state democracy. We want a Europe of trade. We want a Europe of cooperation. We want a Europe that is responsible. We don't want a Europe that seeks to be a global superpower. We don't want a Europe run by Mr. Barroso and the Commission and the so-called community method. And I will do my very best to provide political opposition to your presidency over the course of the next 2.5 years, and I hope you give us a fair hearing. Thank you. Well, we have our two pygmies, with the bland leading the bland, but I'm not celebrating because they'll press on with political union, and whilst our leaders may have saved face for the moment for themselves on the international stage, they have all betrayed their national democracies. The European state is here. We're about to get an avalanche of new laws because of this Lisbon Treaty, and there's no question in my mind that there has to be a full, free, fair referendum in the United Kingdom to decide whether we stay part of this union or not. I hope and pray that we vote to leave, but either way, the people simply must be asked. Thank you.
So effizient wie möglich Geld für den Bund beschaffen. Die Aufgabe der Elitetruppe in der Bundesrepublik Deutschland Finanzagentur GmbH. Ganze 7 Händler jonglieren hier mit den Staatsmilliarden. Hat der Bund etwa am Morgen zu wenig Geld, um seine Rechnungen zu bezahlen, wird das kurzerhand besorgt. Schnellverschuldung.
Heute konkret war es zum Beispiel so, dass wir eine Summe von etwa 4 Milliarden Euro im Markt aufnehmen mussten.
Der Staat als Schuldner ist so begehrt, dass die Banken sich überbieten, um ihm Geld zu leihen.
Kreditsummen und Zinsgewinne werden gehandelt wie Staatsgeheimnisse, Interviewanfragen zwecklos. Die Deutsche Bank, kein Kommentar. Die Dresdner Bank, kein Kommentar. Die Commerzbank, kein Kommentar. Die Banken kassieren, Eichel zahlt, der Steuerzahler haftet.
Das machen wir jetzt seit über 30 Jahren. Zahlen auch nichts zurück. Wenn ein Kredit fällig wird, wird ein neuer aufgenommen, um den alten abzulösen. Das machen wir jetzt seit über 30 Jahren. Zahlen auch nichts zurück. Wenn ein Kredit fällig wird, wird ein neuer aufgenommen, um den alten abzulösen.
Die Chronik der Schuldenmacher. 1971. Der letzte Aufstand der Anständigen. Bundesfinanzminister Möller tritt zurück.